Okay? And
Perfect.
all right. So for all of you watching this live or through YouTube or maybe listening to the podcast, you are watching or listening to the MomHeels podcast, and today we have Anita Patel from Hush Sleep Consulting. She's a certified pediatric sleep consultant, helping moms all over the world get back their nighttime freedom and well-deserved rest. Because we deserve that rest. Some of you may remember Anita from a few months back when we had her live as well. And so many of you asked to bring her back or had more questions. So we decided to bring her again. And I'm so happy because Anita actually helped me and my baby. Well, helped me sleep. She helped my baby sleep so I could sleep. And not just the night parts, also the naps, because my baby would not nap at all, and that was making him very cranky. So I know firsthand how good your services are and how your work. And me and my husband were both extremely thankful for that. So all of you, if you want to learn about baby sleep, if you have any questions, ask us right now live or through the next 30 minutes. Anita's going to be giving you, all of you that ask a question, a free consultation. But not only that, we will be giving another giveaway from Lositan between all of those who ask. So don't feel afraid to ask questions. If for whatever reason hi Envios, if for whatever reason you feel scared or rather ask in private, you can send me a DM and I'll send it to Anita, and you'll still be part of the consultation perks and part of the giveaway. So again, ask away, because tonight is the night when you can start getting your kids to sleep. It doesn't matter if it's a 8-week-old baby or if it's a 5-year-old, Anita can still be here to those with. We have to discuss it early. So I'll give you those at the end. So without any further delay, we'll start our interview, and I want to start by asking my new signature question, which is asking nothing to do. This is MomHeels after all, so I have to ask you, what shoes are you wearing? Just so people don't get familiar with it.
No shoes. I'm in bare feet, which is my preference, actually. Anytime I get a chance, I'm in bare feet.
Down to earth. Girl down to earth. That's good.
Yeah.
If you have to wear shoes, what are your
flats? Now, after having my babies, it's all about flats.
See, I said I refuse to do that. My mom
so hard to wear heels.
However, while I'm at home, I wear my clam slippers.
Those are stuff too.
All right, so we're gonna start talking about sleep right now, and I want people to understand first of all so you're a sleep consultant for the kids, pediatric certified consultant. What kind of support do you offer, and what does this consist of? Because you're not gonna go to people's houses and put their kids to sleep, so explain this a little bit more for those who are listening to us right now.
Sure. So the way my approach is more of the gentle to intermediate sleep conditioning. So really trying to figure out what is the parent's comfort and the temperament of your baby. So I look at the behavior of the baby as well as the comfort level of the parent. So I ensure that regardless of what method you're using your baby, just offering as much support that I can. My biggest thing is offering unlimited support. So whether it's text messaging, phone calls, email, whatever is easier for you. I work on different types of packages that offer those types of support. I do not do cry it out, but I do definitely work with the parents on what their comfort is.
Okay, perfect. I'm just taking notes of the questions that are coming live so that we don't miss them later. Don't worry, we don't answer right now. We're going to answer. Stay tuned. We're going to answer in a few minutes towards the end, because I just want to make sure that we answer to everyone and that we stick to some of the things that we wanted to mention. Um, so how long does it take to sleep condition a child? And I know this is one of the first questions my husband asked you when we
Yes,
asked you for
I
help.
remember.
How long is this going to take?
So it can take, honestly, between 2 to 3 days. It really depends what type of method you use. So because I mentioned there's the gentle to intermediate method, gentle can take up to 10 days. It could take even longer, depending on what type of comfort level you provide. So for example, if you are using more of the intermediate method, where you're not offering as much comfort, but again, you're doing what you need to do, it can take as quickly as 2 to 3 days to see a change. Your baby can sleep up to 12 hours straight through the night by the third night. It really also depends on what age your baby is. Smaller babies, for example, if you're creating good sleep habits, under 6 months old, it could take a little bit longer. Whereas when you go between like the 6 months to, I would say, about 2 years old, again, depending on the method you use, it does take a lot of a quicker approach, and it takes a lot less time to actually sleep condition them.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, with us, the naps, it took very little. Like, it was like 2 days. By the third day, he got it. And we thought that was going to take longer, right? He got it right.
Exactly.
The night, he was a very stubborn, resistant baby, and it took us a little longer than a week. We got there.
Yeah.
After 7 to 10 days, we got there. But it took
Exactly.
it took a
And
little
that's the
longer.
thing.
And part of the problem was that he was dependent on some stuff like the pacifier, and we had created some really bad habits. So
That's the thing. It really depends. Like, naps could take longer for some babies, whereas night could be a lot easier versus naps. So it really depends. And it also really, really depends on how consistent you are and how on track you can actually stay with the plan. So that's everything. It is really hard to stay consistent, of course, but you'll see results a lot faster if you stay on track with your baby.
definitely. And I remember one tip you gave us is both parents have to be on the same page and do the same things when you're trying to comfort and put them to bed. Because if you have one style and then your husband has a different style, that confuses the baby. So that was a good one to give us too, because we were doing completely, like, he was doing his thing, I was doing my thing. And it was not. So that really helped us. Now, can every child really sleep through the night? Or, I mean, you did say that some things depend on the kid, but can every child sleep through the night?
There is definitely a possibility for every child to fall asleep through the night and stay asleep. Being able to sleep up to 12 hours, definitely. But of course, like you said, there is different variables. So there could be issues such as health issues. They could have certain problems in terms of like just different sleep problems that have nothing to do with me being able to teach them or not. But it really depends. Like I work with a lot of babies that still require a feeding through the night. So that in the middle of the night will also, of course, disrupt the sleep. Not disrupt the sleep, but it will definitely have that break in between. But there is definitely a possibility for every baby to fall asleep up to 12 hours, really depending on circumstances.
Yeah. And for those who think that's impossible, I thought that was going to be impossible, that my kid would never sleep 12 hours through the night. I was thinking 12 hours? That's not going to happen. Well, believe it or not, he sleeps about 12 hours, sometimes even 13. And he, more importantly, takes naps between 1 and 2 hours, and he takes them 2 to 3 times a day. So, I mean, we know that the 2 are for sure. The 1 in the evening depends on the schedule, and depending on how much he slept before. So it is possible. It may seem impossible, but it is possible, and every kid can get there. So you said you don't teach the cry out method, but explain a little bit what that is and why you don't teach that, and what do you offer in exchange?
Okay, for sure. So the reason why I kind of went aside from teaching the cry it out method is because of having my own children. So when I actually started to consider sleep training, I thought that the only option was cry it out, and it really made me delay the process of teaching them good sleep habits. And I read a lot about it, and all I would see online or while I was reading books was the cry it out method, and that typically means that you're really just allowing your baby to cry, and you let them kind of tire out until they actually fall asleep. So they're falling asleep due to exhaustion. So in my case, when I was working with my baby, trying to get him to sleep through the night, I spoke to a sleep consultant, and I never knew there was options of teaching the gentle method. So allowing you to actually offer support and comfort while you're teaching them good sleep habits. And that's really what I advocate for. I'm nothing against cry it out. However, I don't teach those different types of methods only because I went through the sleep conditioning with my own kids, and comfort works. It doesn't mean you need to let your baby cry, and a lot of parents are really resistant in letting their babies cry, but you can offer as much support as you need to during this process. It's really just trying to break habits. So that's what I do. So
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. So that's really what I teach, and those are the types of methods I find definitely work, and they're 100% successful. But again, you just have to stay on track. But it works. It really does.
We will let him cry 5 or 10 minutes, but we don't let him cry for 30 minutes, which we had tried in the past, and it's what you say. A lot of times they just get more nervous. I remember getting back to the crib, and the baby was like shaking, all irritated, and just going to sleep because the exhaustion of the stress is probably not good. I mean, there are articles that say that can have consequences on their nervous system. There's different versions, and there's information about everything, right? But I am an advocate for an intermediary way. That doesn't mean that I'm going to go to you every time you cry. Please don't confuse it. Because I can see some moms going, I'm going to comfort, and then these kids in the crib with the baby. But
no, you're right.
But there is an intermediary way where you can teach them, hey, mom is here. You can't cry every time you want me, right? But and just teach them how to fall asleep on their own. So I totally agree, and I really thank you for that, because we really just didn't know what to do with him anymore. The other question, and this is a question that has actually come up on some of the messages, and I'm sure that some people are going to ask again, so I'm going to ask it beforehand, and that is, why is my child waking up in the middle of the night?
Okay, so again, there's a lot of different reasons why your baby is waking up in the middle of the night. It really depends on their age. So before 6 months, a lot of babies have erratic sleep, so their schedule is just all over the place. They may sleep too much during the day when they're under the 6 months, the 6 month age, but that's more because they have the day and night confusion. It really depends. Can you go back to your question? I'm so sorry.
You're seeing a lot of messages just like me, right? And you just want to answer.
Christina, I'm so sorry.
And I just want to say, Christina, I was taking notes, Christina, on your question, because we want to make sure that we address that towards the end. So we're going to be addressing that in the next few minutes. I really thank you for asking that, and I know you have actually a couple of following questions to the one that you asked before. So we will take care of that one. Now, Anita, sorry, my question was, why is my child waking up in the middle of the night?
Yes. I remembered while you were talking. I'm so sorry. I was just reading the question. So it really, 99% of sleep problems are because your baby is dependent on a sleep prop. So a sleep prop can be a pacifier. It can be rocking to sleep, nursing to sleep, bottle feeding. So there's a number of different sleep props that babies required to fall asleep. So when they actually fall asleep to the sleep prop, and then you put them down in their crib or you put them down in their bassinet and they wake up, they expect that same sleep prop to be there when they wake up. And if it's not there, if it's not visible, or they're not in your arms, they're not nursing, that's when they cry out. And usually that is one of the biggest sleep challenges parents face. And it really is 99% of sleep problems is when they do have the dependency of the sleep prop.
Yeah, we
so
had a
that
few
I would
of them.
say
We had a few of them, so it was like a detox space. That's why it took a little longer. Hi, IQ Social Business, Ivaneska. So it took us a little longer because we had to like little by little detox him from all of them. So until we're finally able to just have him sleep. I did kind of change just for one. I mean, I have a toy now that I put at night, also, but just at night for him to identify, okay, this is nighttime, and he touches it while he's falling asleep. It is a sleep prop in some way, but it just helps me with it. It's not the other ones. It's not the unhealthy ones.
Right. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with sleep props. So there's nothing wrong with a pacifier. There's nothing wrong with like a blanket or nursing in the middle of the night. But what happens is when they're really, really dependent, that's when you need to start to eliminate it. So it's like a primary sleep prop when they use it occasionally, and then it becomes secondary and problematic when they're really, really dependent on it. So that's when you want to start to kind of eliminate them because it does definitely cause night waking.
So, and I'm going to ask the next couple questions really quick because I want to go to, we're getting a lot of questions from the viewers. So I want to get to those pretty quickly. But how do I get my child to sleep through the night and for naps? And what is the benefit? So, because we're all talking here about baby sleep, the kids sleep, and we're all worried about it. Why, aside from us getting our own sleep, what is the real benefit here behind it? Why is it so important that your kid doesn't just sleep through the night, but also sleeps their naps? How does that affect your brain or their growth?
Okay, it definitely affects growth and development. It restores like tissue repair. It prevents illnesses, and sometimes even when they go through different growth spurts or they go through teething, for example, it actually really helps them get through it because sleep, honestly, when your babies are not sleeping during the day when they need to or throughout the night, or even just reaching those required hours based on their age, you'll notice that their behavior is so different, and they might be cranky, they don't want to eat, they're at school, they're falling asleep, their focus and attention is very limited, so they really don't pay attention in school, or they just may have like a really short attention span. So all of this in terms of health and development, there's so many different benefits and it's endless. I know you're saying like relating to kids, but even when, for example, if I don't fall asleep at night or I have disruptive sleep, I feel so exhausted in the morning. And I even notice with my own children that they're really, really cranky. Sometimes even when they're sick or when they're teething, I notice that they do get over it quite quickly. And I hate to compare, but I do compare it. Like, for example, I compare my first and second based on when they started teething and how they kind of reacted with both. But my second sleeps really, really good, and she slept good from the beginning, whereas my first had more of the difficulty at the beginning, but you could tell like his regressions were a lot tougher to deal with versus my daughter. And it's really because they need the sleep to kind of help their body restore muscle development and just repair.
So how can we get them to sleep through the night and the naps?
Okay, so the biggest thing, and I can't emphasize this enough, is that they need to learn to self-soothe, and they really need to sleep. They need to learn how to sleep independently, and that's really just trying to slowly eliminate those sleep props that you find are that they're really, really dependent on, because they're going to continue to wake up. They're going to continue to rely on those sleep props, and if they don't have those sleep props when you're trying to eliminate them, then they're not they're going to have difficulty falling asleep until you slowly start to remove them. And then that way, they actually, when you remove those sleep props and they start to self-soothe, you'll notice that they'll start to sleep longer because they're not waking up between sleep cycles, for example. So like I said, sometimes those night wakings are caused because they wake up and they no longer have that sleep prop with them. But so you can imagine when you eliminate that sleep prop, they don't have a reason to wake up. So they slowly start to fall asleep on their own and transition to another sleep cycle. So it's all about learning to sleep independently. Yeah. That's the biggest thing.
The biggest question, I know some kids start to sleep through the night, I don't know, since they come from the hospital, lucky those moms. But for most of us mortals that we have to go through kids that wake up several times in the night, when can we start sleep conditioning the child?
I would recommend, the age that I slowly start to recommend starting to create sleep habits is right from the beginning. But for them to start sleeping through the night when they don't really need the feeds, of course, once they get the okay from their pediatrician, is between 5 and 6 months. So it really depends on their weight. It really depends on how much food they need to intake during the night. But between 5 and 6 months, there's a lot of babies that can sleep through the night. So it really depends on what your goals are. If, of course, you want them to still be nursing or bottle feeding throughout the night, then they're not going to sleep straight up to 12 hours at night. But if you're ready to eliminate the feeds and you have the okay from your pediatrician, I have a lot of babies that sleep up to 12 hours at 5 months. But creating good sleep habits, honestly, I recommend starting right from the beginning. And that doesn't mean you need to let them cry, or you don't need to make them cry or stop nursing or stop bottle feeding, but starting any type of good sleep habits is going to be so beneficial to you.
Yeah. So I'm going to go now with the questions from our followers and viewers, and I have a lot, and I don't even know we're going to have time to answer all of them. But the good thing is that if you ask the question and for whatever reason we can't answer right now, you are going to get a free consultation with Anita. So you'll be able to contact her, or if she will contact you and answer that question in person and a few more that you may have. So we right now have the Total Mom show. Just ask my 2-month-old wakes up once a night and he's 12 pounds and chunky. Wow, is this okay? Once a night. And he's how many months? 2 months? You're a lucky girl. You have no idea.
That's really good. That's amazing.
That's good. She wants to know if that's okay because the baby, she feels like the baby is 12 pounds at 2 months old. Listen, I was like 10 pounds when I was born, so I think your baby's probably good. And at 8 weeks, some babies are bigger, right? And at 8 weeks, the baby only wakes up once a night. The Total Mom Show, I mean, Anita's going to tell you her opinion, but honestly, I think you are actually pretty lucky to have a pretty good baby.
Yes, that's really good. And like you said, you're very, very lucky that they're waking up only once a night. If you're ever worried that your baby is not waking up enough at night to feed, you can always increase calories during the day. So that's a lot of what a doctor would recommend. Of course, I always say go with what your pediatrician says in terms of feedings, because I don't like to suggest to eliminate feeds or add feeds. But for your baby to wake up only once a night, that's great. And honestly, 99% of the time, if your baby is hungry, she will definitely wake up at night. So you're just ensuring that your baby's at a good weight based on their age. That's all you need to confirm. And then once you get the okay from your pediatrician, that's fine. I would never suggest completely trying to eliminate that wake to feed at night at that age. So the one is really, really good. Because you still do want to, at that age, increase their calories as much as you can. And if he's waking up or she's waking up in the middle of the night, that's great. You can definitely feed. And that's what they need right now. So that's good.
And 12 pounds, I think that's a healthy baby. I mean, maybe it's a little bigger than the usual, but not all babies are. I mean, again, my husband was born at almost 11 pounds. I'm sure at about 8 weeks he was 12 or 13.
Exactly.
So,
No.
some kids are just a little bigger than others. My baby was a preemie, and he was almost 8 pounds as a preemie. So,
Yeah.
who,
No.
you know.
It,
So, no,
yeah.
I mean, if the doctor tells you that the weight is okay, then you should be fine.
Exactly.
So, I have a few questions here, and some of them involve not just babies, but older kids. And I know that you can help moms with kids that have 5 years old, 6 years old, that you can help with those too. So, Descalza por el parque is asking if it is normal, and I'm gonna translate it when you finish the response because she did ask in Spanish. If it's normal that at 9 years old they want to go back to sleep with their parents. Es normal que un bebé a los 9 años vuelva a dormir con los padres. Okay.
Okay. Yes. As babies, or sorry, as children get older, sometimes they deal with different types of sleep challenges. So they deal with night terrors. They're more reluctant to sleep by themselves sometimes because they're scared of the dark. And you might even notice that like from 5, 6, 7, and it can continue definitely as they get older. If you can always ask those questions, which are really helpful. And I always suggest and encourage parents to ask questions when your kids say that they're scared or something is unordinary and they start to wake up in the middle of the night, and ask those questions like, why are you waking up? Is there something you need? Sometimes they kind of they'll tell you how they feel. So whether it's like they're scared of the dark or I can't sleep alone, you'll kind of know whether they're scared of the dark or they're having bad night terrors. If everything seems okay, again, there could be other issues aside from specific sleep conditioning that I teach. But another great thing to do is always get the reassurance from your doctor to make sure nothing else is wrong. But of course, if it's just occasional wake ups and they're coming into your room and sleeping without no noise and they're fine the next morning, you find that they're not fussy, they're getting their sleep. But if you want to start to eliminate them from waking up, it's really good to kind of open them up about why they're waking up and if there's anything that's bothering them, because at that age they communicate really well. And it might be simple things just like nightmares or night terrors.
Okay, so para las que tenían la pregunta, ¿es posible que sea porque tiene miedo? Pregúntale a tu hijo si tiene miedo de qué, si es que está teniendo pesadillas, para averiguar cómo se puede calmar. All right, so I just wanted to answer in Spanish, and I have someone else actually that's asking that she's saying that her son still goes to her bed, and he's 6, and she wants to know if that's normal or not. And I'm going to add a question there. Do you find this type of situations more common in kids that are only child or in kids that have brothers and sisters?
Sorry, how old is the child?
6 years old.
6-year-old. It's very common again. So, and it doesn't really have to do with them being an older child or the only child, sorry, or whether they have siblings or not. But same thing, they just find that comfort sleeping with parents sometimes. Sometimes, again, they deal with, they see different shadows in their room, so it gets them to wake up, and then they just can't go back to sleep. So kind of associating it back to when they're babies and they kind of wake up and they may either be stimulated and then they cry out, or they don't have something with them that they're really comfortable with. So sometimes even at the age of 6, some children will use like a stuffed animal, or they may see shadows because they have a night light on, or they might have had a bad dream. But with those things, again, trying to use methods that are comforting by maybe going back to the room and walking them back to the room, so they kind of slowly start to eliminate those wake ups, which is really important, especially if you do want to eliminate those wake ups. It's really important to start that routine of, okay, you've woken up, but let me take you back to your room and ensure that everything is okay. Yeah.
So let me translate that. Dice que sí, que es normal, pero que lo ideal para evitar eso y para ir eliminándolo es calmarlos y llevarlos de nuevo a su cama, calmarlos ahí en su camita para que ellos se sientan seguros en su cama y se puedan dormir ahí de nuevo, y poco a poco cada vez se levanten menos a las niñas. All right. Now, I want to address also those from, I know we have a couple more that came from messages, but I want to address especially those that ask live, because they did make the effort, right? And they may be waiting. So, so Cristina de Melo asked that the baby sleeping through the night but no naps. Could it be related? She thinks that maybe this is because the baby's sleeping so much through the night that it's not sleeping. He or she's not sleeping through the day. Doesn't need the day sleep. Is that true? Because I feel like a lot of people think that, oh, well, because he slept through the day, he doesn't need that much sleep at night, or because he slept at night, he doesn't need to take naps. Do they still need the naps? Is it normal? And how can we help the baby get the day sleep that they need?
Okay, so I would say it's really common for children over 3 years old to start eliminating their naps. You may start to see them in daycare and starting to transition into kindergarten, for example, where they don't need the nap any longer and they are sleeping really well at night. So around 3 ages and up, I would say they don't need a nap during the day. If you can continue with their naps, it's amazing.
But it's a baby.
Another thing is,
in this case,
it's a baby. Okay, so in terms of baby, sorry, I missed that part. In terms of, I would say any age under 3-year-olds, they do require a nap, and that's really trying to balance the day and night. For example, if your baby is required to have, for example, I would say like 12 to 15 hours of sleep with naps and night, you really want to emphasize getting them down to sleep during the day as well as night, because what happens is they may get overtired and fussy throughout the day. Yeah. And sometimes the reason why they're not falling asleep for naps is sometimes we put them down at the wrong time. So say, for example, they wake up at 7 a.m. And of course, this is all based on their age. So every age has a different requirement based on how many naps they're supposed to have. And offline, you guys are more than welcome to ask me. But for example, if your baby's waking up at 7 a.m. and they have a 3-hour wake time, and that's what's required for their age, but you're trying to put them down at 2 hours, or you're trying to put them down at 5 hours, they're not going to fall asleep, or they may be really, really fussy. Yeah. So you really have to focus on wake times, which is really imperative, because that's really the time they need to be awake before they fall to sleep. So that's the same with bedtime. Some parents will have really late bedtimes, and their babies may be waking up really early, but it's because they're not getting enough sleep. So really, I really encourage any babies under 3 years old to have naps, because it will definitely help them kind of balance their day and night. Yeah. Yeah,
and that's actually what part of what was going on. Once we got the naps, it was easier also to improve the night sleep. So it's amazing how everything is connected.
Right.
So Jimenezca asked, how do I keep my 5-month asleep after putting him in the crib? I think you went a little bit over it, but maybe we can... because I'm guessing that she puts him on the crib. I don't know, Jimenez, if you're still online, maybe you can explain a little bit more in detail or connect directly with Anita, because this is a very generic question. It could give... Cristina de Melo's asking. She's the person that we were answering before. He falls asleep in my arms, not in the crib or playpen, so how can I get him to daytime nap in a sleep area? Ooh, that's good.
Okay, so I always suggest for any of you who are listening is that you want to have the same sleep environment for day and night sleep. And that'll really, really help them associate that space to sleep. So a lot of parents will take their baby in a stroller ride, for example, during the day, and then night they're in their crib. So sometimes they get really confused. So what you want to do is you really want to create the same type of environment. Naps are a lot of the time more difficult than night sleep, but you really want to start to eliminate the rocking, especially if you find that's the only way your baby is falling asleep. Because what happens, and you may have experienced it, but you're rocking your baby and you think they're in a deep sleep, so you're ready to put them down. But as soon as you start to transition and put them in the crib, they wake up. And that's really because they have that comfort, and that's the only way they fall asleep. So what you want to slowly start to do, and again, you don't need to make your baby cry. There's definitely going to be a little bit of crying because you're breaking a habit. But what you want to start to do is teach them how to sleep independently. And this type of skill of teaching them to sleep independently or learning to self-soothe is a skill that you have to keep practicing each day, just like your babies practice crawling or they practice standing up. You really have to start slowly by practicing putting them down while they're still awake but drowsy. So when they're in that state where they're awake but drowsy, they are still aware of where they are, so they're not like startled when they wake up and not sure where they are. But you really want to put them down when they're drowsy and awake, because that way they're going to start to learn to sleep independently. And you can definitely pat them. You can definitely hold their hand, or you can put your hand on their chest or on their back. But you really need to teach them how to sleep independently, or they're always going to need that association to sleep. Like you said, rocking, for example.
And we can become that association ourselves. We can become that association sometimes, right? So
100%. Exactly.
I think that you and I had spoken about, and something I started doing to David is that, okay, I do rock him a little bit while I'm giving him the milk at the beginning, but then I stop rocking him, and before he really falls asleep, I put him in the crib and I finish giving him the bottle in the crib. Now, I understand Jimenezka, for example, her thing is that she breastfeeds the baby until the baby falls asleep, and then when she puts the baby in the crib, the baby wakes up. So she's breastfeeding, so it's a little bit different. What can she do? Because she's breastfeeding, and it's a little bit different. Me, I can put the bottle there. She can't put the food in there, clearly.
Yeah. Of course. So, and that's what's so hard, because when I say awake but drowsy, a lot of parents' first question is, but how do I keep them awake? So a lot of the time, whether you're nursing before bed or you're nursing in the middle of the night, you always want to break that feed with an activity. So you're nursing, but then say, for example, because I say awake but drowsy, maybe in between you do a diaper change or you walk around the room, but you don't have them get into that deep sleep. So your big challenge is trying to keep them awake, more awake but drowsy. So if you find that you're nursing and your baby is falling asleep, maybe move the nursing period of time earlier so that they're not completely in that deep sleep while they're nursing, but that you nurse a little earlier, and then maybe you do a diaper change and then you put them down. And that always breaks the nurse to feed association or the feed to sleep association. So you always want to put something in between. So sometimes, a lot of the times, even in the middle of the night when your baby's up at 3 a.m. in the morning and you need to nurse because they won't go back to sleep, you really have to try as hard as you can. And I know it's so difficult, but it's a skill, and you'll slowly start to learn to kind of do it every day, which will be required because that's the way that they'll learn. But you want to slowly start to keep them awake as much as you can while they're nursing. And a lot of the time, sometimes babies are not actually taking any milk in the middle of the night. They're just using it for comfort.
Yeah.
So as you slowly start to eliminate it, especially when you know that they don't need it, then you're going to see such a big difference.
Yeah. I have a mom, Anita 531, who asked, how do you feel about siblings sharing a room? She has a 9-month and a 3-year-old.
It's completely fine. So one big thing is I work with a lot of twins, and of course a lot of parents don't want to separate twins, and a lot of the time twins are not separated. They're together in the day they're born. So a lot of the time, the biggest thing I would say is I'm trying to ensure that they know how to both sleep independently and they know how to self-soothe before you put them together. Because what happens is some parents will put their siblings or put their children in the same room. So you have 2 siblings together. One can sleep great throughout the night, and one doesn't know how to self-soothe, or one is waking up continuously or frequently in the middle of the night. So you really want to ensure that they know how to sleep on their own, and they're very independent sleepers, because what happens is they'll start to wake up each other in the middle of the night. And sometimes that happens with twins. It's a very common thing. One twin could be a really great sleeper and the other is just wakes up more frequently. So what I suggest even in that sense would be to sleep condition them separately, and when they're ready and their sleep improves, definitely you're okay putting them together.
I mean, I know it's a little harder. My sister had that problem where one kid slept better, the other one didn't, and then they kind of like reversed, as one was not letting the other one sleep, and decisions reversed.
Right.
But it has other perks. It just takes longer, but it has the perks that they bond in a different way. They become a lot more supportive of each other. And it gets to a point that if you're different ages, one will calm the other. Take it, let it go.
100%.
One will calm the other, and you won't even notice. So,
so true.
So it just takes a little longer, but it has a lot of other perks. So I know it's hard. I would say don't stop trying to have the kids in the same room because of you're scared that they may not sleep. It might just take a little longer, and you need maybe Anita's help with some of the tips. But there's so much more that can come out of it that it's definitely worth it.
I agree.
I know. I mean, it's getting late. We were supposed to finish at 9. It's 9:10. There's more questions coming in. What I'm gonna